The 135-pound division is about to explode. Shakur Stevenson might move up, leaving a golden opportunity, and O'Shaquie Foster could step into a fight that could define his career, possibly against Gervonta Davis. Who comes out on top? Stick around, because this could change the lightweight division forever. Hey, welcome back to the channel, it's your boy Fenin. Today, we're diving into the 135-pound division, and things are heating up. We've got Shakur Stevenson and O'Shaquie Foster going back and forth, and how this plays out could tell us a lot about what's next for Gervonta Davis at 135. There are some really interesting moves happening on both sides, and I want to break it all down for you. First off, let's talk about O'Shaquie Foster. He recently made waves in the boxing world by claiming the WBC interim title at 135 pounds. And it was a fight that came with an unexpected twist. He faced off against Steve Fulton Jr., and while Foster ultimately came out on top, the circumstances around the fight were far from ordinary. The twist: Steve Fulton Jr. missed weight by 2 pounds. In boxing, missing weight is a big deal. It changes the dynamics of the fight and can shift the stakes entirely. Because of that 2-pound miss, the fight had to be adjusted, and suddenly, Foster wasn't defending his 130-pound title anymore. Instead, the bout became a contest for the interim 135-pound crown, and Foster rose to the occasion, walking away victorious and now holding a title that could open doors to some very interesting matchups in the near future. This win isn't just a small step for Foster, it's a huge leap. The 135-pound division has been buzzing lately with big names like Shakur Stevenson, Teofimo Lopez, and of course, Gervonta Davis. With Foster now holding the interim WBC belt, he's firmly positioned in the conversation for future title fights and possible unification bouts. For those who might not know, an interim title in boxing is like a placeholder for the full championship hit. Signals that the fighter is ready to challenge the reigning champ and could become the mandatory contender. In Foster's case, this win puts him in prime position to face Shakur Stevenson, the current WBC champion at 135, or possibly even set up a unification showdown in the near future. Now, let's break down why this situation is so significant. Shakur Stevenson, who currently holds the WBC 135-pound title, has been planning a move up to 140 pounds to challenge Teofimo Lopez for the WBO belt. That's a strategic move, because winning a title in a higher weight class is always a big statement in boxing. It shows that a fighter isn't just dominant at one weight but can succeed against bigger opponents as well. But here's where it gets interesting. Stevenson can't hold the 135-pound WBC title and the 140-pound WBO title at the same time. Boxing organizations generally require fighters to choose one, so Stevenson will have to relinquish one of the belts, depending on how his fight with Lopez goes. If Stevenson wins at 140, he's going to take that WBO belt and leave the 135-pound division wide open. That's where Foster comes in, with the interim WBC title already in his hands. Foster could now step up to fight for the full 135-pound WBC championship. This isn't just hypothetical, it's a very real scenario that could shape the next few years of the lightweight division. And if Stevenson loses at 140, things get complicated in a different way. He may lose his 135-pound title too, unless the WBC grants him a special exception. Either way, the result is a high-stakes opportunity for Foster. What makes this matchup even more intriguing is the size factor. Gervonta Davis, another big name in the 135-pound division, is naturally smaller than some of the other fighters in these higher weight classes. Davis isn't likely to chase Stevenson up to 140 pounds, because he's most comfortable competing in his natural weight range. That means fighters like Foster, who are coming up from 126 or 130 pounds, represent the most logical and competitive matchups for him. And this is where fans should pay close attention. These are the fights that not only make sense for the fighters themselves but also promise to be action-packed and highly competitive. Inside the ring, there's also the matter of exposure and recognition. Smaller fighters like Foster haven't always had the biggest spotlight. He's mostly fought on PBC cards, and while he's a top-ranked contender, he doesn't yet have the household name recognition of someone like Stevenson or Lopez. But a fight against Gervonta Davis would change that instantly. High-profile bouts like this are what elevate fighters from being respected in boxing circles to being recognized globally. After a big fight, suddenly everyone knows their name, whether it's Foster, Davis, or any other rising star. And let's be honest, there's always a bit of drama in these situations. The moment talks start about a fight between Davis and Foster, you'll hear plenty of opinions. Some will say Foster needs to move up in weight, others will hype him as the toughest contender around. But the reality is that Foster is one of the smaller fighters in the 135-pound division. Standing next to Stevenson, you can see the difference in size. Yet, that doesn't diminish his skill or his ability to compete at the top level. It just makes the matchup even more intriguing for fans who want to see speed, strategy, and skill in action rather than just raw power. So, looking ahead, what does all this mean for the division? If Stevenson moves fully to 140, Davis has the perfect opportunity to unify at 145 against Foster. That's a fight that could define Davis' career and cement Foster's status as a serious contender. On the other hand, if Stevenson stays at 135, we could see a showdown between him and Foster directly. Either scenario is exciting, because it guarantees high-level boxing and a chance to see how these fighters handle each other when the stakes are high. In the end, Foster's win over Steve Fulton Jr. wasn't just another title fight. It's a pivotal moment that has ripple effects throughout the lightweight division. From Stevenson's move to 142 potential unification bouts with Gervonta Davis, this victory has positioned Foster at the center of some of the most compelling storylines in boxing right now. For fans, it means thrilling fights are on the horizon. And for the fighters, it's an opportunity to prove themselves at the highest level. So, whether you're a fan of Foster, Stevenson, or Davis, one thing is clear: the 135-pound division is heating up, and the next few months could bring some of the most exciting matchups we've seen in a long time. Foster's victory is just the beginning, and the path forward is full of possibilities, drama, and, most importantly, incredible boxing action. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Shakur Stevenson currently holds the WBC title at 135. But he's moving up to 140 pounds to face Taimo Lopez for the WBO belt in January. So the big question is, what happens to his 135-pound title? Let's break down why Shakur Stevenson's potential fight at 140 pounds against Teofimo Lopez has massive implications for the 135-pound division. Right now, Stevenson holds the WBC title at 135 pounds. And he's clearly aiming to make a name for himself in a higher weight class. That's a bold move, and it comes with big consequences. In boxing, the rules are strict about holding multiple titles in different weight classes. Simply put, Stevenson can't keep his 135-pound WBC belt while simultaneously holding a 140-pound WBO title. If he wins at 140, he'll be forced to relinquish one of the belts. He can't have both. This rule isn't arbitrary. It exists to ensure that champions actively defend their titles in each weight class and that opportunities remain open for other fighters. Boxing is a sport built on competition, and the sanctioning bodies want to make sure no single fighter blocks an entire division from title contention. So, if Stevenson wins at 140 pounds, he'll likely take the WBO belt and vacate the 135-pound WBC title. And that's where O'Shaquie Foster comes into the picture. Foster, who recently captured the interim WBC title at 135 pounds, now finds himself in a prime position. The interim title is essentially a stepping stone, a signal that he's next in line for the full championship, with Stevenson moving up and potentially leaving the 135-pound title vacant. Foster could step in to claim the full WBC crown. That's a huge opportunity for Foster, not just to prove himself at the top of the division, but also to secure a matchup that could define his career. This is the kind of situation that boxing fans dream about: rising stars getting their chance to shine against the best. But what if Stevenson doesn't win at 100? That scenario is just as intriguing. If he loses, he'll likely also lose the 135-pound belt, unless the WBC grants him a special exception. Sometimes, sanctioning bodies allow fighters to keep a belt under unusual circumstances. But those exceptions are rare and usually involve negotiations or contractual agreements. In practical terms, a loss at 140 pounds almost certainly opens the door for Foster to fight for the full WBC title. Either way, whether Stevenson wins or loses, Foster's position as a contender becomes even stronger, and a showdown between Stevenson and Foster starts to look inevitable. Now, let's talk about why this potential matchup is so exciting from a fan's perspective. Stevenson is known for his incredible technical skill, speed, and defensive ability. He's precise, intelligent in the ring, and has a style that makes him difficult to hit. Foster, on the other hand, has a more aggressive style, and he's coming off a big win for the interim WBC title. The contrast in their styles would make for a compelling fight. You'd have the disciplined, tactical approach of Stevenson going up against the hunger and momentum of Foster. That's the kind of clash that keeps fans on the edge of their seats. Because anything can happen when styles collide like that. Beyond the style matchup, there's also the psychological aspect. Foster is coming into the fight with confidence from his recent victory, and he has the chance to make a name for himself on a much bigger stage. Stevenson, meanwhile, would be defending his reputation as the WBC champion at 135 while balancing his ambitions at 140 pounds. That tension between ambition, legacy, and opportunity adds another layer of drama to the potential fight. Boxing isn't just about punches. It's about narratives, rivalries, and moments that define careers. A Stevenson versus Foster fight would tick all those boxes. Another angle to consider is the domino effect on the rest of the division. If Stevenson moves up to 140 and gives up the 135-pound WBC title, it doesn't just benefit Foster, it shakes up the entire lightweight division. Other fighters, including names like Gervonta Davis, will start to strategize around this new landscape. Davis, for example, won't need to chase Stevenson up to 1. Instead, he could focus on natural-sized opponents at 135. Which makes the division more competitive and exciting overall. Foster stepping into a full title fight could trigger a wave of matchups that fans have been waiting for, creating a domino effect of high-stakes bouts that define the next chapter of the division. Finally, there's the human element. Boxing is as much about heart and determination as it is about skill. Foster has fought hard to get to this point, navigating smaller cards and climbing the ranks. Stevenson has been careful in his career, taking strategic fights and positioning himself for maximum impact. A showdown between these two wouldn't just be a title fight, it would be a story of perseverance, ambition, and the constant push for greatness. Fans don't just watch for the outcome, they watch for the journey, the strategies, the moments where fighters are pushed to their limits, and the excitement of witnessing history unfold. So, whether Stevenson wins at 140 or loses, the outcome sets the stage for a highly anticipated clash between him and Foster. It's a matchup that makes sense, both competitively and narratively, and it promises to be one of the most talked about fights in the 135-pound division. Fans should be paying close attention, because the ripple effects of Stevenson's move to 140 pounds could define this division for years to come. In short, this isn't just about one fight, it's about opportunity, timing, and strategy in one of boxing's most exciting weight classes. A Stevenson versus Foster showdown is more than possible. It's highly likely, and it has all the ingredients to be a classic. For anyone who loves boxing, this is exactly the kind of storyline that keeps the sport thrilling. So whether Stevenson moves fully to 140, or decides to stay at 135, O'Shaquie Foster is in prime position to either fight for the full WBC title or become the mandatory challenger. It's a fascinating chess match in the division, and it could shape the future of the 135-pound landscape and even have implications for Gervonta Davis. Alright, before we dive deeper, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and tap the bell so you don't miss any updates. And to my longtime supporters, I appreciate you all. You know, I keep it real, no gimmicks, just straight facts from your boy Fen Andotso. Who's most likely going to be in the mix for a big fight next? Honestly, it looks like O'Shaquie Foster could be set to face Gervonta Davis for the WBC title. Here's why. Foster just fought on a PBC card, and even though he's a top-ranked fighter, his exposure has been mostly limited to PBC cards. Top-rank fighters, on the other hand, don't really have a network deal right now, so it makes sense that a matchup like this would happen under the PBC banner. Smaller names like O'Shaquie Foster usually end up on PBC cards, while bigger names like Shakur Stevenson or Teofimo Lopez get more attention. So, in this scenario, Foster fighting Davis seems like a natural matchup. Here's my prediction. I think Shakur Stevenson will likely keep his 140-pound title, which opens the door for Gervonta Davis to face O'Shaquie Foster in a unification fight at 135. This would be Davis' first real chance at a unification bout, and it makes sense because Davis isn't going to chase fighters up to 140 pounds. Stevenson is moving up, and he's not coming back down, which leaves the 135-pound division wide open. Gervonta is naturally smaller than some of these guys, so the fighters who are his size, like O'Shaquie Foster and others, moving up from 126 or 130 pounds are the ones he'll face. It's all about matching size and skill at 135. Also, I think this puts to rest all the talk about Davis retiring. He's mentioned plenty of times that there are more big fights coming, so fans should be excited. The only hiccup: as soon as talks start about Davis versus Foster, people will start hyping Foster up or downplaying him, saying he should move to 140, 147, or 154 pounds, but in reality, Foster is one of the smaller 135-pounders out there. Even standing next to Stevenson, the size difference is obvious. Bottom line, I don't see Davis chasing Stevenson to 140. He'll stick to 135, gain more recognition by taking on fighters like Foster. And then, as these guys move up, everyone will know who they are. This happens all the time in boxing, remember? Mario Barrios, Rolly Romero, or Lamont Roach. No one wanted to fight them at first, but after a big fight, suddenly everyone's interested. Gervonta Davis is going to go through the same process. That's my take. I want to hear what you think. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, I'm out. Deuces.